Hello and welcome to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you a requested video of how to sew a crisscross corset gown with Basque waistline. So I have a similar gown on my channel. All I'm going to do is just to alter the neckline.
So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to cut it out, and I added half-inch round. After cutting out the main fabric, you're also going to cut out the lining, and I went ahead to cut out wording for this also. If you're making use of an already made cup, I'm going to be illustrating how to use an already made cup for this. So this is the centerpiece. I taped it together. So I'm making use of a Duchess material. Sorry, my voice is a little cracky at this part of the video. It is 60 inches by length. So after cutting out, I found out that it wasn't really enough. So when making yours, you should get about 3 to 4 yards of fabric. So I've gone ahead to also cut out the center part, and I added half-inch on it. And at my back part, at the front part of my zipper, I just added half-inch. So by the time I sew on it, I'm just going to have my zipper allowance. So I did add half-inch by the side of the back because I've already added my allowance. So this is my hairstay, and I'm just going to iron it on my fabric. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and place hairstay to the wrong side of my fabric, and I'm going to iron and cut out. So there are two types of hairstay, the light and the one that is a bit thicker. So you should go for the one that is a bit thicker to avoid having issues when ironing it. So after ironing hairstay to my dress, this is what I have, and we're going to start joining this pattern. And also at the back, I went ahead to iron hairstay to the fabric. The next step I'll take is to take the lining piece of the back, and I'm going to place on it, and I'm going to be stitching it with half-inch. So to stitch, you're going to start by the side, and you're going to stitch the upper part also this way with half-inch, and you're going to turn it up from the lower part, and you're also going to repeat the same process for this side also. So the right side of the fabric is facing the right side of the fabric, and you're just going to stitch with half-inch round it this way. So moving over to the cup part of my pattern, so I cut out wording for this pattern, and just like I said, I'll be illustrating how to use an already made cup, but I'll be doing that with the lining part of this cup part of my dress. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate my cup for joining, and I'm going to pick one side of my cup B, and I'm also going to take the wording and I'll place it. So when placing, make sure if you're using a wording, make sure the shiny part is facing the wrong side of the fabric. And I'll go ahead to pick up my cup A, and I'm going to go ahead to separate it also. I'm just going to pick out one part of the cup. Now I'll go ahead to also pick the wording, place the shiny part underneath it, and I'm going to be joining it. So I'll go ahead and iron it to it. After ironing, I'm going to place and join with half-inch at this side. So I'm done joining the cup for this part, and this is what I have. And on the other side of the cup, I'll be repeating the same process just like I did for the other side. I'm going to place the wording underneath it, so I have an excess at that point, and I'll just go ahead to trim it off. After trimming it off, I'm going to place it with the other side, and I'm going to join with half-inch. For those that are using already made cup, I will be illustrating it with my lining piece. So after I'm done joining my cup, this is what I have at both sides. Right now, I'll be working on the lining piece. So for the lining piece, I went ahead to use a bridal satin just to show you the difference between a Duchess and a bridal.
Also, I'm going to be using this to attach my already made cup. I'll just show you how to attach an already made cup. So I'll just go ahead to place the cup together. So what you're going to do is to iron and interface it to your cup and stay to it. After ironing, you're going to go ahead to join it. I'm done joining the cup or the lining part of the cup. So now I'll be introducing my already made cup to it. So my bust size is 33 and I went ahead to buy 34 inches cup. So I'm going to make a dart at the center of my cup. Of the dart is 3 inches and I'll go ahead to sew that on my cup. So after doing that, this is what I have and I'm just going to place it on it this way. So in order to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to use your hemming gum to attach it on it. But before you do that, you're going to iron this part of your cup flat. You're going to make sure it is sitting flat. You're going to iron it and it's either you attach your cup by sewing it on the sewing machine or you're going to use hemming gum to attach it on it. So to do that, you're going to place this and you're going to place your hemming gum on it this way. You're just going to cut it out and you're going to place your already made cup on it and you're going to go ahead to iron it. Iron it, you're going to use your tailor's ham. So if you don't have a tailor's ham, I have a video on how to do that. You can go ahead to learn how to make your own tailor's ham. So I'm just showing you an example of how to attach your already made cup to your fabric. So I'm not actually ironing it, I'm just showing you an example how you're going to do that. So after attaching it, this is what you're going to have and it's ready for you to attach it to the main fabric. Go ahead to continue with what I have and next I will be attaching the cup to the body of the corset, and to do that I'm going to fold this over and I'm going to find the middle at both sides. After folding it this way, I'll make sure it aligns at that part. So after doing it, I'll go ahead to give it a notch on that part. So I'll also repeat the same process for the other side. I'll go ahead to fold and I'm going to notch. So after I'm done notching it, this is what I have and I will be placing my cup to join it. So on that notch part, I'll be placing the center of my cup where I joined it to it and I'll go ahead to pin. So right now I'm going to be joining my cup with 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to place it this way. So if you find it very easy to join without pinning, you can go ahead to do that. But while pinning, if you notice that your cup is a little bigger than the space you have, you're just going to notch the body of the corset. So on the other part of the corset, I'm just going to notch the body. Please do not notch the cup, I mean the space that you have for the corset, and I'll go ahead to pin it down. So after pinning my cup round, this is what I have, and the next step I'll take is to go ahead to sew it with 1/2 inch round. So I'll start sewing from the back part with 1/2 inch round my corset this way. So before I go ahead to stitch the other side, I'm going to pin the other side of the cup, and whatever I do on the main fabric, I will be doing it on the lining also. I'm done stitching up my cup and this is what I have. So after doing that, I'm going to place the right side of my lining and the right side of my main fabric and I'm going to pin it down. So the next step is to stitch up these parts together. When pinning, make sure that your fabric and your lining aligns very well. So after I'm done pinning it, I'm just going to stitch with 1/2 inch round it this way. So here is my back pattern and I've gone ahead to stitch it round and this is what I have. So the next thing I'll do now is to place it this way and I'm going to be measuring out
my zipper allowance. So next I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to mark out that 1-inch zipper allowance I have at the back. So after marking it, I'm going to go ahead to use a pin to hold that part, or you can just stitch it up and open it later. But I'm just going to go ahead and I will pin directly on that 1-inch mark that I made at the zipper allowance. This is to enable me shape the upper part of my dress. So after pinning it and I will open it, this is what it will be looking like. After I'm done stitching, I'll go ahead to give it a little notch round it. So there's another method whereby you push your allowance to the lining part, but for this I'm just going to notch it, and so that it's going to relax at the upper part of my dress. So after doing that, the next thing I'll do is just to turn it up to the right side. After turning it to the right side, I'll be introducing my tailor's ham and I'm going to use it to iron this out. So I went ahead to heat up my iron because the ironing table is far, and I'm going to iron my cup so that it's going to sit very well. So next I will be introducing the back and I'm going to shape it. So I'm going to place the right side of the corset at the front and the right side of the back together, and if, as you can see, it is aligning, and I'll just go ahead to pin it down with my pin at both sides. Now it's time to shape the corset, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my tape. I'm going to get my underbust, my shoulder to underbust point, which is 12 inches, and I'll place it at that underbust part. That's the part where you joined your corset from the underbust. I will make a mark at that point. So I'll place the tape and I will find my bust point and I'll go ahead and mark. So after marking that, I'm going to go ahead to also mark my waistline at this point. I'll go over to the other side and I'll repeat what I did here. I'll place my tape, get my underbust point first, then place it back and I'll mark my bust point, and from there I'm going to measure my shoulder to waistline, which is 17 inches. After marking my waist point, I noticed that I have more than ½ inch, so that might be error while I was cutting out my fabric. So what I'm going to do right now is to reduce it, and to reduce that I'm going to mark ½ inch, that is the joining allowance at the lower part, and I'm going to fold my corset this way, and I'm going to go ahead to make sure it aligns before I can go ahead to trim out the excess. So I'll go ahead and pin it to avoid it from shifting. So after that I'll just go ahead to trim out the excess that I have by the side, and I'll go ahead and open up my pattern. So this is what I have, and I'll just go ahead to trim some little sides of the corset. Next I'll start inserting my measurements, and I'm going to go ahead and place my tape at my bust line, and I'll make sure I measure out what I have at the bust exactly. So my bust circumference is 33 divided by 2. I have 16.5. So after I'm done measuring, I have 19.5 at this point. What I'm going to do is to minus the 16.5 from the 19, and after doing that I have 3 inches left. So I'm going to share that 3 inches into 2, which I will have 1.5 at both sides, and I will go ahead to mark it and then remeasure what I have. At my under bust, I'm going to measure what I have at that point. At this point, after measuring, I have 16.5, and my under bust circumference is 14. 16.5 minus 14, I have I have 2.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to share it. So after measuring that, I'll just mark my 14 inches at this point, and I'll connect it down to my bust point, and I'll also connect it to the other side. Going down to my waistline, I'm going to place, and after measuring, I have 15.5, and my waist circumference is 28 divided by 2. I have 14 inches. So I'll be minusing 15 inches minus 14.5. I have 1.5 inch left, and I will be dividing that. So I'll mark the other half at this point, and I'll mark my 14 inches. Then I have my allowance at both sides, and I will connect it to the upper part of my dress and draw a straight line. So after doing that, I'll just go ahead to stitch at both sides. So after stitching it, I'm just going to unpin the back and open it up. So this is what my corset is looking like at this point. Now it's time to introduce the lower part of this corset. The total length of my gown is 40 inches plus 2 inches allowance for folding, which is 42. For the 42 inches, I minus 17, which is my shoulder to waistline. So this additional 4 inches or 5 inches we added in front for our basque is not part of the measurement. So I'm just going to fold it this way to show you. So that is your shoulder to waistline, which is 17. Then I'll be minusing 42 minus 17. So the remaining part, I will be cutting it out. So there are two ways of cutting this. Is either you cut it out in form of a flay, but you're not going to actually use your waist measurement. Let's say your waist is 28, you're going to be using like 50 inches to cut out your waist. You're going to have enough to gather at your waistline. So, or you can just cut it out as a straight material. So I don't have enough fabric, so I went ahead to just cut it out straight, and I'm going to fold the lower part of the material. So after folding it to the end, what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and I'll sew a gather stitch at the other end. So I've gone ahead to fold the lower part of my fabric, and after folding that, I folded my fabric into two, and what I'll do is to go ahead to notch the center. This will serve as a guide when I'm attaching it to the upper part, because I'll go ahead to run a gather stitch on this upper part. So after sewing a gather stitch, this is what I have, and what you're going to do is just to take one rope and you're going to drag it to create a gathers at the waistline. For the fabric at the lower part of my waistline, I have 2 yards, so you can go ahead to cut out up to 3 yards if you're cutting yours on a straight fabric. So remember that notched part, you're going to place it at the center when you're done gathering. So that's why I said it will serve as a guide when joining your dress. So after gathering it, this is what I have, and I'm just going to pin it before sewing with 1/2 inch to join the upper part and the lower part together. Before you start stitching, you want to make sure that what you have gathered on one side is enough for the upper part of that side. Now to stitch, you're going to flip it to the other side, and you're going to pin the notch part to the center of the upper part, and you're going to go ahead to pin it down. After pinning it down, you're going to just run 1/2 inch stitch to hold the upper part and the lower part together. After I'm done pinning it, I'll just go ahead to sew with 1/2 inch round and also pin the other side and sew. So this is what I have after I'm done sewing. I'll go ahead and flip it to the other side this way. So what I'm going to do right now is to stitch it up. So I'm just going to place this together, and I'm going to run a 1-inch stitch at the lower part. So from the waistline, I'm going to measure about 8 to 10 inches, any of your choice, and I'm going to attach my zip to the upper part. After I'm done attaching my zip, this is what I have, and the next step we're going to take is to go ahead to attach the sleeve.
So this is the fabric that I'm going to use to cut out the straps for the neckline or the sleeve for this dress. So I'm just going to cut out 4 pieces of this. So after cutting out 4 pieces of this, the width of this is about 4 inches and the length is about 37 inches, but I'm not going to make use of the full length. So what I'm going to do next is to go ahead and fold it, and I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch. I'm going to stitch to the end and I'm going to turn it open. So you can go ahead and iron an interface into this. So you're going to go ahead to turn the 4 pieces that you have, and after that you're going to go ahead to iron it out. So these are the straps or the sleeve for the dress. I'm done sewing and I'm just going to go ahead to turn it. So after turning it, I'll start attaching it to the dress. So the first one, I'm going to go ahead and place it under the under bust. So I'm just going to mark a line to indicate my under bust line. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and tear this up a bit where I joined the back to the front. I'm going to open it up on this side and I'm going to place this inside this way. And also on the other side, I'm also going to go ahead to open up this part and I'm going to place the strip or the sleeve for this dress inside it. So after I place it inside, I'm going to stitch on the side. Just like I said, I'm going to turn and stitch it inside on that same place I stitched before. So after I'm done attaching it, this is what I have. So I'll go ahead and place it over this way, and I'm just going to stitch it underneath my under bust. So in order to make it easier for you, you can just go ahead to use pin to hold it down just the place you want it to be. And I'm just going to pin my own and make sure it laps while pinning. So after I'm done pinning this side, I'm going to start pinning the other side also, just like I did on this part. But first you're going to go ahead to stitch on this with 1/2 inch. Then moving over to the other side also, you're going to place it underneath it this way and you're going to pin. So now I'm just going to go ahead and use my pin to hold it down. So before you start stitching on this, you're going to stitch on the other one. So I'm just showing you how you're going to stitch it. So after I'm done pinning, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to just stitch. So after I'm done stitching, this is what I have. I just went ahead to stitch on the lower parts. I didn't stitch the parts going to the cup side. And what you're going to do right now is you're just going to go ahead and place it. So as you can see, I went ahead to cut out the strip meant for the sleeve or the strap for the corset. So now the best way to achieve this is to actually put on the dress, and someone will help you pin it down. Then you can go ahead to cut out the excess and know exactly where you're going to pin this. Now going over to the second strap, this is what I have. So I went ahead to open it up a bit at the upper part of the corset, but after that I noticed that it is actually on the side. So you can go ahead to open it up at the upper part just this way, or you can just place it on the side also. So I'm just going to open up and fix one of the straps that I made. After I'm done fixing, I'm just going to go ahead and use pin to hold it down. Now I'm going to go ahead to top stitch it at the machine. Going over to the other side, I'm just going to open it on this part. Just like I said, after I was done sewing, I noticed that the second strap also started at the side but by the upper part of the dress. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this part up, and I'm going to fix in the second strap of the dress inside it this way. And when I'm done attaching it, I'm going to go ahead and hold it down with a pin, and I'm going to also top stitch on it. So after this, you're just going to go ahead and cross your straps this way, just to check if you're going to get that neckline. So after I was done doing this, I had to go ahead to put on this dress, and someone actually pinned it at the back for me. This is like the easiest way to get the neckline. So someone had to pin it down for me, and I went ahead to cut out the excess and I stitched it at the back of the dress. So if you have another method of attaching the sleeve, please let me know at the comment section. So after I was done attaching the sleeve, this is what I have. So please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section, and see you in our next video. Thanks.